How much does Progressive pay for bodily injury? Progressive provides bodily injury liability coverage as part of its auto insurance policies. This coverage is designed to help pay for the medical expenses and other damages if you are at fault in an accident that causes bodily injury to someone else. The amount Progressive will pay for bodily injury depends on the coverage limits you choose, your state's minimum requirements, and the severity of the injuries involved. Below is a breakdown of how much Progressive may pay for bodily injury claims. First, bodily injury liability coverage, limits. Bodily injury liability insurance from Progressive typically has two types of coverage limits. Per person limit, the maximum amount Progressive will pay for the bodily injury of one person involved in the accident. Per accident limit, the maximum amount Progressive will pay for bodily injury to all parties involved in the accident. For example, if you have $50,000 per $100,000 bodily injury liability coverage, $50,000 is the maximum amount Progressive will pay for a single individual's bodily injury. $100,000 is the maximum amount Progressive will pay for the bodily injury of all people involved in the accident. 2. What is covered under bodily injury liability? Bodily injury liability helps cover a range of expenses if you are at fault for an accident that causes injuries to others, including medical expenses, hospital bills, doctor's visits, surgeries, and rehabilitation for the injured party. Lost wages. If the injured person is unable to work due to the accident, Progressive may cover their lost income. Pain and suffering. In some cases, Progressive may also provide compensation for physical pain and emotional distress caused by the injury. Funeral costs. If the accident results in death, the policy may help cover funeral expenses for the deceased. Third state minimums versus custom limits. The minimum amount of bodily injury liability coverage required varies by state, and some states have very low minimum requirements. For example, some states require only $25,000 or $50,000 in coverage, while other states may require higher amounts. You can choose to increase your coverage limits beyond the state minimums for more protection. Higher coverage limits generally lead to higher premiums, but they provide greater protection in the event of a serious accident. For example, if you cause an accident with severe injuries that exceed your policy's limits, you could be responsible for paying the difference out of pocket. 4. Uninsured, underinsured motorist bodily injury coverage. If you are involved in an accident with a driver who does not have sufficient bodily injury liability insurance, or no insurance at all, Progressive offers uninsured, underinsured motorist bodily injury coverage. This helps cover medical expenses and other costs if the at-fault driver is unable to pay for them. This coverage is optional, but it can provide extra peace of mind if you live in an area with many uninsured drivers. 5. Payout limits. While the maximum payout is determined by your policy limits, Progressive will only pay up to those limits. If the injury costs exceed your limits, you may be personally liable for the remaining amount, especially if the at-fault accident caused serious injuries or fatalities. Progressive pays for bodily injury based on the liability coverage limits you choose, and the amount will depend on the severity of the injuries and the applicable limits. To ensure you are fully covered, it's important to review your bodily injury liability coverage and consider increasing your limits for greater protection. To get the most competitive quote on insurance in your area, simply click on the link in the description below.